And we are live. Thank you, everybody, for joining in tonight. We have a very special and fabulous show planned for you all. It is a first. It is our first Ladies' Night podcast with an all-female panel. Obviously, I'm not a female, but someone's got to run the show. And we do have Sam lurking in the background somewhere. You know? Here we go. Say hi, Sam. All right. Sam's taking.
Hey.
Sam is tech support on Cindy's end. And he's sitting in the backup chair.
He's taking care of an issue here.
Yeah.
We've got an echo.
All right. So while Sam is working on that, I'm going to talk about a couple of things before we get started. One, to explain, we haven't had a podcast in about 6 weeks.
Crazy.
Life gets in the, very busy. Everyone's been busy. Life gets in the way. Got kids in all kinds of activities. But then I got hit with influenza A. Now, I know everybody's always thinking everything's COVID and nobody ever gets anything but COVID, but I got influenza A and it took me down for a hard week. And then I was just sluggish for the next week and a half. So I had to take a break from everything and kind of got myself in a big hole with a lot of different things going on. So I dug out that. So to get us back on track, it's fitting that we'll do this first with the Ladies' Night podcast. And this is something that I've had in the queue for months and months now. Devora and Cindy have been on several shows, very popular with everybody. But I figured it was time to let them share their stories about their ranches and their journeys and talk about some interesting topics. So with that said, we'll get started. So I'm going to have Devora first and then Cindy just talk about, how they got started with their property, why they name it the way they did, what was their inspiration for the property. Once we get through that, then we'll segue into other topics regarding homesteading and the different things that they do. So, Devora, if you're ready, please why don't you kick it off? Ooh, excuse me. I haven't been doing this in so long. I'm starting to stutter.
Sure thing. Hey, everybody. So I have the Crimson Sky Ranch up in Brooksville, and we've been here since 2014, and we kind of happened into homesteading by accident on purpose. It was my daughter was president of her FFA chapter. She had started in 8th grade. She, at the end of 7th grade, she came home and said, "Mommy, my friend shows goats. I want to show a goat too." And I was like, I don't know what that means, but okay, whatever you want. So that was our start. And we rented a goat for a year. And then the next year we bought a goat. And then the goat had a baby. And then we bought another goat. And these were all living at school. We were living in Land O'Lakes in town in a house. And we had 3 goats. And as we were going to school taking care of the goats, I noticed that the kids weren't taking care of the chickens. So I started taking care of the chickens at school. And then my daughter was like, "I want to show a cow, show a steer." So her freshman year in high school, she showed a steer. Sophomore year and senior year, we skipped the junior year because she broke her foot a couple times because the cow kept stepping on her foot, each different steer. And so we learned through FFA, which was an amazing experience. I highly recommend it if you have kids in school. 4-H is also an amazing program for teaching the kids about values and leadership. It was an amazing experience. And so then I ended up rescuing a horse. And I mentioned that I lived in town, right? So I was like, what am I going to do with this horse? It was a horse rescue. And she's like, "Well, you can have the horse for the cost of my electric bill, because I don't pay my electric then the horses don't have water. So and this was up in Trenton. So I drove up to Trenton with the idea that I was either going to buy a horse or pay an electric bill, one way or the other. That electric bill was going to get paid. So, so we ended up buying a horse and we boarded it in Land O'Lakes, and then we were renting at the time, and so we ended up looking for property, and we were looking for much smaller properties, and we were blessed with finding this property. And it's absolutely gorgeous here. It's like a park, and it's like we're in heaven every single day. We're blessed. And so we came home from school with 5 goats, I think, at the time. Yeah, because babies, the goats had babies. And so we had 5 goats that we brought home. My daughter's steer didn't make weight that year, so he came home, and we bought cows that the previous owner had. So now we had 10 cows, 5 goats, and we brought the chicken coop home from school because they built a new one. So, and we grew to about 30 goats and a dozen cows, and then we got out of cows and we got out of goats. I have 2 goats left, and 1 cow, not the same cow that I had. She was born here though. Her mama gave birth to her, and then we had to put her down, and that was 3.5 years ago, and she just had a baby. So our neighbor's bull inseminated her, and I had to deliver this baby because it was breech. And so we've learned a lot. It's been a lot of experiences. And so now I have a cow to milk again, and we have a baby, and we have Florida cracker sheep. And Florida cracker sheep are awesome because they are indigenous to the state. They've been here since the 1500s, and so they're parasite resistant, and they need very little care other than minerals and waters and lots of brush and shrubs and grass to eat. So we've got the acreage for it, and they're loving life.
Quick question for you, Devora.
Yeah.
I know one time I was there, and I wish I could have stayed for it. You were going to get the sheep sheared.
Yes.
Were they able to use it for wool, or did you end up just harvesting the lanolin from it?
So right now I have 2 huge garbage bags full of wool that I haven't had the time to do anything with yet. So I was gonna experiment, since it's my first time with wool, and we have a plant on the property called Caesar weed that has these little balls that were all through the wool that are like Velcro. So they told me that the wool is essentially no good for using for spinning. So I'm going to experiment with learning how to wash it, and I'll play with a little bit of it, and then I'll probably use the rest of it to make lanolin. And honestly, it's very good for the garden to hold water in the soil.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I'll put it in my garden beds.
Oh man, that's
Nice.
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna hold my questions until after Cindy speaks, and we'll time into the other topics. But I just want to ask you, so how'd you come up with the name, or was that the name of the ranch already?
It was not. My husband's favorite band is King Crimson, and so we took that, and we have the most beautiful crimson red sunsets to the west of us. So that's how we came up with Crimson Sky Ranch.
Yeah, it's such a great name.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it just makes me think of like Montana or Wyoming or something like that. A true Yellowstone type of ranch name. Very cool. Yeah, and it's such a great property. I mean, I've been up there so many times, and we'll have you share more about what happens on the property a little bit later in the podcast.
Yeah.
But for now, let's turn to Cindy, and why don't you share your story?
Well, it started, the idea of a homestead, when I was actually a very young girl, maybe about age 5. I knew what I wanted to do from a very young age. And I was always getting dirty, always walking through mud puddles, making mud pies, all kinds of fun stuff. And I grew up camping. I never stayed in a hotel until I was in my 20s.
Wow.
My family, we grew up camping and bird watching and all kinds of stuff, hunting and that sort of thing. And my parents did a little bit of gardening when I was young, and we had chickens and stuff. But when I was that young, I thought, oh, I want to be a pioneer when I grow up, but I also want to be a scientist. And, I feel very fortunate in my own way. I've accomplished both. I have a degree in biology because as a child, I had so many questions about nature. I absolutely love nature, and my parents couldn't always answer my questions to my satisfaction. So I thought, I'm going to study this, and then I'll be able to answer my own questions. And usually I can. Maybe do some research too, of course. But that's what I did. And then instead of, obviously, it's kind of hard to be a pioneer without the Wild West, homesteading was the next best thing.
Yeah.
So I really feel fortunate that I could kind of live out my childhood dreams. And I've had a homestead in Colorado in the foothills of the Sangre de Cristos. Those are part of the Rocky Mountains. And we lived at 8,000 feet, which is pretty darn high.
Yeah.
And we had no phone, no TV. I raised pigs with my husband and kids and chickens, and we had a little greenhouse, and we did a lot of climbing in the mountains. That was another thing I always knew I wanted to do as a little girl too. I had seen rock climbers in Wisconsin when we go there to camp at Devil's Lake, and I told my mom and dad, when I get big, I'm going to do that. And because be on these ropes and stuff, and my parents are like, but I ended up doing all of it, and I knew at a very young age what I wanted to do. And here on my homestead, we, even though it's just an acre, we do a lot with it. Have bees, we have many chickens, and we have, of course, the obnoxious geese, and trust me, they are. You can ask Sam.
Yes.
And let's see. I would love to have goats, Devora. I wish you had some. I would.
We'll trade you the geese and goats.
And I also have hives. We've had bees for a long time, and I'm teaching Nancy how to be a beekeeper. In fact, she's coming over tomorrow, and we're going to get into the hives.
That's awesome.
Going to help us with some chores we've got going on around here. And we also have a very, very large garden. We have about 17 and a half foot raised beds, and that's just one part of the garden. We have one big food forest, and then a couple smaller ones that the boys, I call Sam and Jim the boys, they're working on that, planting trees and everything, and flowers too. Got to attract the pollinators. And we have a lot going on here. And I do a lot of food preservation, and I grow a lot of herbs, make a lot of medicines. My goal has always been, I don't want to have to buy things at the store. So I'm going for as much self-sufficiency as I can. And this particular homestead we've had since 2015. And I sense that back in the early 2000s, there was probably going to be, ever since the real estate crash, probably some problems with maybe the food supply, the economy. So I thought, I need to stop the traveling. So Jim and I started homesteading again. And the name, Goose in the Garden.
Yeah.
So I hatch all my chickens and my geese with an incubator, and I have quail at times too. My husband wanted some geese, so I did a little research, chose the Toulouse breed, which is a pretty large goose, but not as mean as others. And I ordered some eggs and hatched them myself. And as soon as they got old enough, they were past that really cute, adorable gosling stage. And believe me, it happens fast. Every time I looked out the window, these geese were in my garden, and I'd be, Jim, the geese are in the garden again. I thought, I'm looking for a homestead name. This is perfect. Goose in the Garden. And my daughter created a beautiful logo for my things, like my tinctures and lotions and creams that I make. So I've got a beautiful logo. Maybe a little bit later I'll show it if you don't mind running and getting one of my bottles with it on there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Right there, right.
Oh, it is. Okay. That's all right. I don't know. Can you guys see it clearly?
No, it's kind of.
Oh,
that's better. Yeah. Okay, cool. I really, love when people name their property. To me, it gives a different air, a different vibe about it. To me, it gives a little bit more legitimacy, especially if it has a connection to the experience on the property. I mean, anyone can name a property and have a catchy phrase, whatever, but if it doesn't have a good story behind it, that's personal, then it doesn't have the same value. So you guys both have great naming journeys, and I think they're great and very fitting, and anytime that I talk to other homesteaders, I'm like, hey, have you named it? Now, some people behind the scenes that I've been talking to try to get them to come on, I'm like, hey, have you named your property yet? That's kind of one of my go-to questions now. So hopefully everyone's able to name it or has some ideas they're bouncing around to, get it started. Because I think it makes a difference. Have you guys ever created any kind of swag with your property logos?
So I don't have a logo for the property. We do a music event, as you know, and we've done swag for that, and that's called Prog on the Ranch. We do a music festival here once a year, and my husband created T-shirts every year. He creates a new design, and then we'll do mugs or something like that. And we did bottle openers the other year. That I designed a whole big thing, Prog on the Ranch, with the animals running around with the music on the bottle opener. It was really cool. That was a lot of.
Yeah, yours is unique, Devora, because it's like you got double duty. Prague is such a big event. Why don't you give us a minute or two about talking about Prague? It's had such a great journey, because I mean, I've heard the story before, but share it with the audience.
Yeah, so we used to go on this cruise called Cruise to the Edge, and it was hosted by the band Yes, and it was a bunch of progressive rock bands, and some older and some new, because there are still new progressive bands composing music. And so at night, the people on the cruise who were passengers would get together to make music. The first year it was informal around the piano, and we weren't actually there for that. We were there for the next year, when it was actually formalized, and the passengers who were musicians could get up on stage, and we'd sign up in advance and put together a song. Say, for example, the second year, we got really enterprising and did Bohemian Rhapsody. and there were probably 20 people on stage with all the backing vocals and everything. So it's a lot of fun. So here at home, we ended up the first year, we brought it back and did it on our front porch. And a friend was coming to town, one of our musician friends, and she says, "Do you think anybody would want to get together to make some music?" And my husband put out feelers, and we had people fly in from across the country to make music on the front porch. And we're like, what in the world? And so we did it again the next year, and we rented a sound stage that came to the property. And the following year, we built a carport and built a stage underneath it. And then during COVID, my husband got bored and wanted to rebuild the stage again. And so we built wings, and he's like, "Hey, I want another one over on the other side," and with the sound booth in the middle. And it's just it's turned into a musician's play yard. And we only do this once a year, but in the meantime, we host weddings. And we might be doing some more music within the next year. We might be hosting some more music events, and of course, we host our group, which is such a blessing to be able to gather everyone's knowledge, and share knowledge and learn new skills. I learned canning at these workshops. We learned emergency medicine. We learned how to cut down trees that fell the wrong way. It's just such an amazing wealth of knowledge that our tribe has, and what an amazingly good-hearted group of people. I've just been so blessed by everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I wanted to share with the audience is, I mean, your property, so between Prague on the Ranch, which is like a weekend, right? It's like a Thursday to Sunday.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this coming year, it's February 27th, 28th, and March 1st.
Yeah. And like you said, people come from all over the country, musicians, people come in just to be at the festival.
People come in from all over the world.
We
have someone coming from South Africa, from UK, from Iceland, all over the world. We don't have Australia this year. Argentina, Brazil, everywhere.
Yeah. And one of the core components of it is community.
Yep.
So people getting together and listening to music, they find that commonality, break bread, and commiserate. And then you do the weddings, and I mean, outdoor weddings, I think, is such a great experience.
It's
bringing so many friends and family together as they celebrate. One of the greatest things you can do is be married. So another example of community there, and then all the events that we host. So I mean, that property gets utilized in so many different ways, and at the core of it all is community. And I think it's great. So if you don't have the opportunity to, I say this to the audience, to have your own, not everyone can't have their own homestead or a ranch or what have you. Collaborate with others. I mean, there's so much you can do, and it changes just the dynamic and everything. And you're able to develop such, great friendships through all the different things that you can do at a property.
It does. And we feel like we've been blessed with this property to share it.
Yep. Yeah. And that's a good point, because, in this space, there's a lot of energy put into the fantasy of homesteading. And I don't say that in a negative sense, but it's a realistic thing.
It's hard. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And I think a lot of people, do not grasp that, regardless of what people say or advice they tell them. They don't understand. And it's very challenging to sit there and run a homestead in itself, let alone have a family to care for at the homestead, or have a job or a side business, you know? So, so let's segue into, because I don't want to talk about those things yet. So let's segue into what's it like, a day in the life of each of your homesteads. So let's start with Cindy this time, because she went second earlier. Tell us about a day in the life of running now. And I say this because you have a 1 acre homestead versus Devora. Devora's is much larger.
Correct.
Okay? And you guys do somewhat different things. So tell us what it's like to run, your 1 acre homestead.
Okay, I'm an early riser, and I'm up usually 3-4 o'clock in the morning every morning, and I really don't sleep well as I've gotten older, but it works for me. And what I do is I do a lot of medicine making. I make, like I said, everything I possibly can, like cleaning products, personal care products, even I make my truck cleaners and stuff like that. Anything I can make. And you'd be surprised how easy it is, aside from trying out recipes. But you just keep a few basic things on hand. You can make just about anything. But I'll work on that sort of thing. If I need to strain some tinctures, I'll do that. Sometimes I'll get a head start on lunch. I have cooked from scratch pretty much my entire adult life. I just thought it was fun. It tasted better. And oh, I'm so glad I've done that, because now that I'm older and realize how toxic, the food is, I realize I have my health and doing well with it. I think from eating, non-processed foods. We eat very little of that. So I have a lot of chopping to do of vegetables and stuff from the garden. In fact, when garden's in full swing, I'll go out to the food forest and pick things that are going to go into lunch. So a lot of times I'll start lunch early in the morning and have what I can get done ready. And then I'll spend a couple hours in the morning, maybe outside, tending to the garden. Jim usually takes care of the animals. I'll assist with that. If I've got eggs in the incubator, I'll tend to that. There's just all kinds of things to do in the morning. And then I serve lunch, and Sam eats a lot. Just kidding.
He's a growing boy.
Yes.
I do assist in the kitchen.
Yeah, he's his on his bucket list is to learn how to cook. So we're working on that. And then, since I get up so early after I eat lunch, it's nap time for me. I take about an hour-long nap, and then I get up for what I call my second shift, and that can consist of just about anything. We might have to do something like when Nancy comes tomorrow. We're going to probably work in the garden a bit. We've got to get things ready for the range meetup for bartering. We've got a list of stuff people want. And we're going to clean one of the sheds out that's been in need of it. So that's on the list there. But there's, odds and ends in the afternoon, run errands, that sort of thing. Bees are going to be tended to tomorrow. I'm going to take Nancy into the hives. What were you going to say?
Got to update our dry erase boards.
Oh, yeah, we have dry erase boards here. Jim and Sam each have their own dry erase boards, and I write chores on them. And they get the joy of crossing off stuff or erasing it when they complete their chores. So it's kind of a big joke around here. They do it, though. They do it, but it's kind of fun to tease them.
Well, I think one of the things that people don't think about is that everyone can have a different schedule. And, I'm obviously, you guys have catered your schedule to your personal needs. But part of it is you're spending, especially in Florida, where we live, it gets hot depending on the time of the year.
Yes.
So when people are like, oh my God, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, well, you got to be up that early if you want to minimize your time out in the hot sun, whether you take a
Exactly.
break in the middle of the day and
And
then do
getting eaten
something.
by mosquitoes.
Yes. So, and you can be up at 3 o'clock in the morning, but do a lot of your tasks inside. Just whatever works. But if you're getting up that early, odds are you're probably going to bed early too. And we seem to forget, before the days of electricity and alarm clocks and our modern society, people got up at sunrise or just before and went to bed when it was dark out. So that was our natural clock. Our bodies adjusted. Instead of what we live by now, this 9 to 5 grind for most people. Another important point that I think people should realize is that you can't do it alone, at least effectively, so you have Jim, and you have Sam. Okay. And there's still tons of work to do every day.
Yes. It's a work in progress. The first thing Sam said when he came here is, don't you ever catch up? And I said, I had to come to terms with that too, because I like goals and accomplishing them that.
Yeah.
And I've had to kind of settle for marking things off a list, which is why they both have dry erase boards, because there's always something to do. And Sam actually said this morning, he said, there's more to do now than when I first got here.
It's like having more space. You fill it up with more stuff.
Did you notice I knew about my animals and didn't say a thing about plants?
Yeah. Yeah. And
I just don't. I haven't had time to tend to them, and in the summer, I can't go outside in the heat of the day. It just kills me. So, we have morning glories that overtake my entire garden over the summer, and I go out in the fall and I strip the trees of the morning glories. And
we are going to help you fix that, Devora. We are going to do a blitz, do a food forest on your place. That's going to be low maintenance. We just need to get it going. But yeah, I was waiting for cooler weather.
I've got a lot of trees in place already, and they've got great growth on them. I've got bananas and plantains and pomegranate and peaches, but everything is a lot for one person to handle, and I tend to get in over my head. And fortunately, my brother-in-law is on the property with us now, and he's been helping a lot with the animals. But we run a business on the property too, so that's my 9 to 5. Except I don't wake up that early, so it's my 10 to 4:30 because we have to be at the post office by 5. And then after work, then I can go and take care of my animal things, and so now I'll balance that between milking the cow and taking care of the other animals and getting out into the garden and planting.
Devora,
I have a gazillion seeds.
Yeah, Devora, how much acreage of your property is cleared? So not where we did the chainsaw stuff, where there's still forest, basically, just the cleared stuff.
I don't know the number of acres. The total number of acres is 15.6. I would guess that probably 4 to 5 acres are the forest in the back, the pine forest.
So then up front is around 10 acres.
Up front is probably, the up front was 10 acres and we sold 4.5 acres.
Okay, so say 5. 5,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
5 to 6 acres up front. Yeah.
All right. So we'll call it 6 acres. And there's the reason I'm bringing that up is that people, they fantasize about having these vast properties. I want 40 acres or 80 acres. Well, odds are most of the time you're not doing anything with more than an acre or two. Most people, right, from what I've seen, out of the influencers or just people I've met. So even with 2 acres, Okay. And like in your case, that's a lot of mowing.
It's a lot of mowing. It's a
Right.
lot of mowing. And especially we host events, so it's got to be mowed before every wedding and trimmed and look nice and presentable, and the barn has to be blown out and everything wiped down. And so during this season, we start wedding season September through April, May. And it's everything, so everything has to be wiped down and cleaned, and the outside bathrooms have to be taken care of and tended to. So and that's before I step into the garden. So what's always last is the garden.
Yeah. So for you guys that haven't been to the property, was it maybe 4 or 5 months ago when the lawnmower broke? Maybe even longer. Yeah, we were having an event, and now we're talking about a riding mower because there's so much that Billy has to sit there and mow.
It's a 0-turn 60-inch mower. Yeah.
It broke, and I come to the event, and of course there's always dew, so the grass is like up above my ankles. There's dew on the ground, and it's just
soaking wet.
And you're soaking wet. So the reason I bring this up is because it just takes one piece of machinery, okay? And we're not even talking about a complicated thing like a tractor, okay? We're talking about a 0-turn, mower, and if that goes down, how it impacts everything else. Now, Devora she has a back pasture where her animals go out there. They can only eat so much grass, 1 cow and 2 goats.
And the sheep, they can only eat so much grass.
Yeah. And so it makes a difference. And one thing, and everybody that owns a homestead knows this, there's always something breaking down. Whether a pipe is leaking, a machinery is breaking, an animal gets sick. And you got to
garden.
Oh, yeah, animal gets in your garden.
Somebody mentioned the goose in the garden. My cows, when I had my herd of cows, my bull used to jump the fence, and so he knocked the fencing down, and so the cows were in the garden, the goats were in the garden. I've had to replant trees over and over and over again because they would get in there and strip them clean.
Yeah.
So finally I have good strong fencing, and then one of my goats was getting through the pipe gate because I didn't have wire on the pipe gate, and she was able to crawl between the pipes.
Yeah, stuff like that has happened. My daughter's also in FFA, and we were going there to help take care of her chickens one day on a weekend, and we see I thought it was a deer at first in the back pasture, and I was like, oh, look at the deer, because there's deer all over in this area of Lutz where the school is. And then my daughter was like, that's not a deer. That looks like a goat. And there's a back pen that they keep animals that students that have graduated, have gone on to high school, but have not been able to take the animal. They keep some of them there. And so we had to go there, and we were examining everything, and the goat had slipped through the fence. So I had to fix the fence and then kind of coax the goat to go into the, luckily I had a key to be able to open up the lock, because my daughter's like, well, just pick it up and put it over the fence. I'm like, this goat might eat my face. I'm not doing that.
They're wily little creatures.
Yeah, but and we were able to get it in, and we just let everybody know. But you never know what's going to happen at Devora's Ranch, because it was I don't know, a couple events ago. Was it, maybe it was the day I don't know if it was the day you were trying to shear the sheep. All the sheep got out and went out into the pasture in the woods and stuff. Yeah. And we had Joe and a bunch of other people had to go and try to round up the sheep. Yeah. Impromptu.
Into the barnyard so that they could be shorn. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a prog on the ranch where I had horses back then, and someone says the horses are headed towards the street, and we had people running after horses because someone had the gate open.
Yeah. Well, and there's so much work to do. I remember that time when your son was building the accessory building, and Devora needed some help moving all the drywall in because it was gonna rain. It just got dropped off. So me, Brendan, what was your son's name again?
Jared.
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 Jared. Yeah, and Devora, we're sitting there carrying in sheets of plywood. Now me and Devora, we're carrying a piece together.
Yeah.
Where the younger guys, they're carrying a big piece by themselves. I'm like, I'm too old for that.
Then we're taking a sheet, and Dom and I we're carrying a sheet together.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, sometimes you got to sit there, and that's one of the great things about our community is that when people need help, we reach out to each other, and we do different things. You know, it's be as simple. It's, you know, many hands make light work. I think that's how the quote goes. You
Absolutely.
know, and you know, it was a long day. We're all sweating, and you know, we were just drinking a lot of water and everything. But you know, that effort.
You were awesome.
Yeah, I mean that effort. Now, who wants to do manual labor? Not me, but it made such a huge difference for Devora. You know, and they had a lot of money invested in that drywall. The last thing you need is her trying to carry it in by herself. Number one, and what if it starts raining? Then all that drywall is ruined. So, and the reason I bring this up is community. So if you got a homestead, make some friends, okay, and be kind to them, and do things for them, and they can do things for you, and to help, you know, go do some stuff. You know, it's tough, and like Cindy was saying earlier, you never catch up. No, I've not met one property owner that has ever said that they were caught up, or, you know, I was bored, I had nothing to do.
I wish.
Not one. Oh, man. All right. So so I wanted to expand. Let me try this little new feature here. All right. Okay. So can you guys, we'll go back to Devora. Can you talk a little bit about what the startup was for your property? Like some of the things that you had to do, you know, getting started on the ranch, you know, like the startup itself to operations, and then the ROI on it.
The biggest mistake that we did was to bring animals onto the property before we had a lick of fence. We had perimeter fence. The property was completely perimeter fenced. But like I mentioned, the people that own the property before us, we bought 10 cows from them. So the cows stayed here. One of the horses we bought from them. So one of the horses was here, and we had the other horse brought here. And then we brought the goats and the cow, the other cow from school. And we only had perimeter fencing. So we would come out in the morning to the horses knocking on the door, the goats eating the window screens. And everybody always told me, cows cannot climb stairs. Well, I am here to tell you, cows climb stairs because the cows were on my front porch. I have a picture of my bull at my front door.
Oh my gosh.
So there was a pole barn. We quickly built a proper stalled barn. We put stalls in the pole barn, and we started fencing because my husband, who's from Brooklyn, he said, "I'm not staying here. I love you, but I'm going to live in an apartment, and I will come visit. This is not the life that I want." So I was like, maybe fencing would be good. So we started with just the fencing, the north to south run that split the property from the front to the back, and the animals all went in the back. And then we put the next two pastures in. That was the curvy fence along the driveway, and then I was able to rotate the animals through the pastures properly. Return on investment, Goats do not make money. Goats are a money pit. I loved my goats. I had about 30 of them. They, unless you are a dairy, or unless you are selling all of your babies for meat, you're just not making money. So that was a really hard lesson for us. Um, show goats are cute and all. And sometimes you sell them for a good price, but most of the times, no. And so we lost a lot of money on goats. When we went to sell cows, it was always when the market was low because we had a lot of times in the past 14 years where the price of cattle was just very, very low. It's up now because they've had such bad droughts in the Midwest and stuff that they were slaughtering cattle at a very high rate for a while. So the price of cattle is very good right now, but it was horrible. So we lost a lot of money in animals. They're a good tax write-off, though. We have an ag exemption on the property for the animals. The sheep are a much, much better return on investment because they don't require a lot of input. Specifically, the Florida cracker sheep don't require a lot of money in investment. They're not expensive to buy, and they're not a whole lot of care. They need to be shorn. They need minerals and water, and as long as you have enough pasture, you don't need to feed them a whole lot. But they come for food very nicely now. That's a really good way to train them. So depending on the breed and the Florida cracker sheep, sometimes they'll throw twins, but usually singles. And but you can sell the wool and you can sell the babies for meat and or for just replacement stock. So those will be a much better investment. We were actually going to look at alpaca, but to buy a good quality hair alpaca is $5,000 a piece.
Wow.
So yeah. So that wasn't really feasible.
Yeah, there's a lady that runs an alpaca farm out in Odessa.
Yep, we were there. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and she had an arrangement with the FFA kids. If you wanted to do alpaca, she would you just pay a fee. You come to the alpaca farm,
Right.
do some chores, X amount of time a week, whatever, and she just would do all the rest. So some people did that from the FFA that my daughter's in. So that's pretty neat. I mean, sometimes it's not. I mean, I don't even want to bring the chicken to my house. When we had the hurricane last year, had to keep the chicken in. I think I brought them. We had them in the garage or their mom's garage a couple of days. It impacts the chickens when you travel with them. They get all weird and stuff, and they don't like to be out of their space. One thing I didn't know about chickens until my daughter told me about it. They don't see good at night.
Right.
So
no, they don't.
That's why it's like a natural mechanism when it starts to get dusk.
Going down.
Yeah, they come in, and God help them if they get trapped outside after dark.
Yeah, because they'll get torn apart by a raccoon or a bobcat or whatever else is out there. You have to be so careful with chicken coops, with putting a barrier in the ground around your coop so that something can't dig in and something can't get into your coop at night, and that you're careful to close the door at night. And we've had cases. I had a solar door, and the solar door broke, and I didn't realize it, and a raccoon came and took out my entire flock of 10 chickens in one night.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a question from AB. If you were only raising animals for you and your family to eat, what would you go with? I want to hear from both of you guys.
I'm going to say chickens because they're relatively fast to dispatch, clean them up for dinner. When I have quail, I always called that homestead fast food because I could have one butchered in 4 minutes. Nate can actually butcher one a lot quicker. He's telling me I got to learn from him. But anyway, they're very fast. You can, unfortunately, they're kind of small and they're kind of dumb birds. But I think I would definitely go with poultry just because the ease of butchering them.
They're easy to butcher, and they don't take up a lot of space in the freezer compared to a lamb or especially a cow. I would either do chicken or sheep. The chickens you can get eggs from also, so
Yeah.
you can you can turn around new chicks every 21 days, because that's how long it takes to incubate them, and then grow out is about 8 to 12 weeks depending on the breed.
Yeah, Devora, that's why I talked to you about the Delawares, because processing weight, they can reach that in about 10 weeks, which is
Right.
pretty darn good. And then you're not buying feed or providing them with feed. And
Right.
yeah, I'm still looking for Delawares, by the way. I'm determined to have them.
The Delawares are decent foragers too. So that's an important thing, especially when you're looking at being sustainable. You want a breed that is dual purpose, so you have a decent amount of eggs, you have a good meaty bird, and you have a bird that is a good forager, so that when you if you're going to free range them, let them out of the coop during the day, they will forage for bugs and eat plants and get a lot of their calories that way, so you're not needing to feed them as much.
That's a good thing.
Because chicken gets expensive when you have a lot.
Yeah. Now, I know there's several people in our community that either have sheep or looking to expand their sheep. Sheep seems to be, a good option.
Yeah.
And they always seem pretty friendly. Oh God, I think I was at Joe's property, and what's the male sheep called? Is it called something different?
The ram.
The ram, yeah. The rams were nasty.
Yeah, they ram you. That's why they're called rams.
Yeah.
I'll trade you one of my obnoxious geese, the gander, for one of your rams.
I'll tell you a goose story. I lived in Salt Lake City for 10 months. And when the snow was starting to thaw, we took the dog to the park, and there was a goose that flew across the lake and attacked our dog that was in the lake and chased her out of the lake. Yeah, nasty creatures.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd seen some videos and read some stuff online that, people are liking ducks, for their eggs and stuff like that. But it just seems so weird with the ducks because they're very dirty in their water. It seems like you have to clean your stuff up a lot more. I think they got to eat some rocks or something to digest or clean their bill.
Chickens do too.
Yeah.
They need the grit.
Yeah, they need to also. Male ducks will try to mate female chickens.
Oh wow.
They do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. About it, I have to say.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right, let's see. All right, so let's talk about. All right, we got two more topics. Revenue streams and co-location activities.
Sorry about that. Am I still there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can.
I
Yeah.
hear me, but you're frozen. Oh, good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
You can hear me? I can't hear you now.
Testing 1, 2.
Should I refresh
Maybe.
my page?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
I'll talk about revenue streams if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so first off, I prefer bartering. And I have been at it for years. I've traded out even well work when I need haircuts, when the boys need haircuts. I barter. I It's a way of life for me, and I've been fortunately I can make a lot of different things. I have the honey, I have eggs, I occasionally butcher chickens, and I make the medicine. The medicine is a big thing that I barter. Yeah, it's, and sometimes I even get labor for it because labor, that's what I need here. And that's another thing I wanted to say about community was in the prepping hub. I know when Jim first got sick and we needed some help, I had people coming here and donating a work day on the
Oh.
homestead and helping out. And it was, I give them a few things that I had, but bartering is a good way for me to do it. And I do occasionally sell stuff too.
Yeah.
Hatching chicks. I've had couple recent, my last hatch, I did a lot of chickens, probably was about 30 chickens and sold them, and actually got silver for some of them, some silver coins. So I was quite happy with that. And the reason my chicks are all over the state of Florida. They're unjabbed and for several generations. So people want the unjabbed chicks. So there's definitely a market for it. People that have had my chicks or heard about my chicks, they'll pass that on to other people, and I'll get, calls out of the blue. I heard you have unjabbed chicks. So I would get those.
Purebloods. Well, some might laugh at that. Some people might get triggered by that, but it's perceived value. A chicken's a chicken, but it's important to some people to have them a certain way. So that's a great niche for you to have. Devora, what we were talking about was revenue streams, different things and she was emphasizing she really likes to do barter a lot, but would sell on occasion, and some of the things that she was generating income for. So, what kind of revenue streams have you been able to do with your ranch?
When I was milking goats, I was selling the goat's milk. I wasn't bartering. One of my neighbors raises she breeds German shepherds, and she needed the goat's milk for her puppies. So I was selling her goat's milk. But now that I'm going to have cow's milk as I come higher into her lactation, I'll start making cheese. And I'll sell milk and cheese.
What kind of cow is it, Laura?
Her mother was a Jersey.
Okay, so high butter fat. I'm liking that.
Yeah.
I would love to barter some milk, get some milk from you.
Absolutely. So I actually I just my friend built a stanchion for me for her. And so tonight was the first night that the first afternoon that I got her in, and milked her out a little bit. So this is her first lactation because it's her first calf. So we'll see. I don't know what kind of milker she's going to be, but she was so sweet. She didn't balk at all about me milking her and being in the stanchion. She did really great. So I'm excited about milking her.
Do you think the cows can tell the difference between you milking them and their baby yanking on the udder?
Absolutely. Cows will hold back the cream for their babies a lot of times.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear about it from all the time when you're milk sharing with the calf, is that the cow will hold back the cream and just not give you as high a volume of milk and not give you as proportionally high amount of cream.
Wow, I had no
Yeah,
idea about that.
yeah,
That's some interesting biology for them to be able to
it is.
do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I would guess that, the comfortability that the cow or whatever animal feels about the
Right.
person around them probably makes a big difference.
Most
Horses,
definitely.
cows, and everybody.
Yeah.
This next question is for both you guys. Do any of the animals or, particular breeds tend to become pet like or exert pet like behaviors if you raise them from chicks, little babies to whatever age?
Not for me.
Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead,
I
Cindy.
think of them as a food source, livestock, and I just don't treat them like pets. I have cats, and a dog I treat as pets, but not my birds, not the key, any of them.
Do
And
your animals well do your
I've had
animals
other animals. Yeah, I just don't treat
yeah
them like pets.
well do they how could I put this here? So when they follow you or give you attention, is it comfortability or that's the food source?
Okay, because I have Garfield, my gander of the geese following me, but that's to nip at me, and I raised him from an egg too. I hatched him, and he was supposed to imprint on me.
Oh
He
my god.
imprinted on Jim. Jim didn't have anything to do with the hatching process.
Oh gosh.
I don't know how that happened.
Oh
I can
man.
tell you that I've had very many roosters become close friends with my boot.
Oh my gosh. I'm reading some questions here. I'm sorry here.
But as far as chickens, I don't ever have any sort of relationship with my chickens. My goats. I've had my herd queen since she was a year old, and she's 15 now. I think Ari is 15, and Teacup is 5 or so, maybe 4. So yeah, the goats we always have a relationship with. The cows, the dairy cow, Promise, I bottle fed her, and her mama Jersey girl was she was my heart. I was Promise was laying down on the ground the other day, and I sat down next to her, and she literally took her head and wrapped it around me and pulled me to her body and
Wow.
hugged me. I was like, "Oh my goodness."
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And
um,
she would just lay there with me laying on her. The sheep not so much. They are more feral.
yeah.
The ram will come up. In fact, before Promise gave birth, the cow, I was out in the pasture with her, petting her, and the ram came over and wanted to get to me. And Promise put herself between me and the ram and
Oh
pushed the
wow.
ram.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cows are such gentle animals. I mean, it's just they're so big.
They
I'm always
can.
nervous when I'm at your property because not that the cow's gonna attack me, but it's so big and
Do you remember the time that we went down to the front pond before I sold that part of the property, and she was bouncing around everybody
yes,
like
yeah.
like a rocking horse, back feet, front feet, and running around everybody. I nearly flipped because I was like, oh, she's such a gentle thing, but she was 600, 700 pounds at the time, and she'll easily flatten a child.
Yeah.
Not to knock one of us over. So
Yeah.
I'm always very respectful of her size.
Yeah. And I think that day Van had his dog out there with us.
Yep.
And I don't know if that was an impact or a coincidence and stuff. You know, dogs are on a lot of different homesteads, so I think if the animals just get used to each other, they learn where to step and not to step.
Yeah.
You know, but to bring them fresh like that can make a difference.
Yeah. And she has always been on the opposite side of the fence from my dogs.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to jump into some comments here. Nate said, if you ever had a goose stare you in the eye, you know they're evil.
Been there.
Oh, man. Let's see. I think Deona had a question. Let me pop that up there. How many months can you milk this cow?
If I wanted to, I could probably milk her 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if I didn't breed her back, which I don't have a bull, I used my neighbor's bull down the street, and he's sold his cows because he's 94 years old, and he finally just sold his cows.
Mm-hmm.
So if I didn't breed her, have her artificially inseminated or something like that, I could milk her for about 2 years.
Oh,
before her lactation just got so small that it wouldn't be worth my time. But ideally is I'd milk her about 10 months or so, and then get her bred back, probably with AI at this point, and then I'd dry her off about 3 months before she was ready to calf again.
Mm. Right.
So that she could put all her energy into the new calf.
Yeah. All right. Brendan said cows are giant puppies. They don't realize the weight difference. So
yeah.
No kidding. All right. Let me see where are my notes here? Okay. All right. So co-location activities. Now, have you guys, when I say that, have you guys experimented with those types of things? And that could be like, hey, you etch out a small piece of your property for someone to come and grow their own garden, or someone to live on the property and, you know, help out with chores, or put their chickens, they carve out a piece, and or have your chickens with their chickens, or their own separate thing. So if they live in an HOA, housing development, or apartment, they can't have them there for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But you work something out with them where they can have chickens, and they come, and, you know, they probably can't come every day, but maybe they come like on the weekends and clean. Because I don't know how often, I'm using chickens as an example. Like, how often do you have to clean out a chicken coop?
I do the deep litter method. So every few months, 6 months, and then I just put it in. I do my composting with a chicken play bed. I've got a couple chicken play beds, or I directly put it in the garden if it's pretty old. But yeah, my chickens do the composting work for me. I just don't have time to turn it and stuff, so they do it for me.
Great thing. I do the same thing. I had one of my daughter's friends had brought her horses here when we had first moved onto the property. So we had 4 horses here for a little while. And she basically never came. Yeah. So I've had people rehome chickens to me. I had someone rehome a turkey because she was in Spring Hill, and she didn't have the neighbor's permission to have livestock, and her neighbors didn't want the birds there, so she had to rehome them. So, but I haven't, and I've talked to my husband about that, about possibly doing something with letting somebody create their own garden, or come help with the garden and reap the benefits of because I've got so many fruit trees, and we couldn't possibly consume as much fruit as would be produced from my trees when they finally start producing. So we've talked about that. My brother-in-law lives on the property. My son was going to live on the property and then ended up going to Marathon to fish. He got a great job down there. So we don't have anybody living on the property. I would consider it at some point. I'm not there yet.
What do you guys think are the pros and cons? So, like Cindy, Sam's kind of co-locating.
Yes, definitely.
You know,
he spends a lot of time here.
Yeah, and he has a trailer there. So,
yes.
So just for the audience sake, when I'm talking about co-locating, there's so many different ways to do it. So if you're going to be on the property, you know, you might sit there and either bring your camper or maybe set up a tent. I don't know if a tent would be good, or have like a little shed conversion or something. But there's got to be an ROI to it for both parties. You know, you don't want somebody fresh out of jail, okay, or on the registry, okay, and living on the property, okay.
Well, you know, Jim and I liked having Sam here. Well, we knew him for quite a while before that. That we decided we wanted him in the house. He's got his own room, and we use his Winnebago as sort of a bed and breakfast for the homestead.
It's the guest house or the in-law. Exactly. Oh man!
So I'm in his room right now. He's got the nicer computer set up here.
So you guys found a good way. So, how did you guys broach that? You know, in a nutshell, how did you guys?
Okay. All right. So Sam had his group, the Prepping Hub group, and I came on pretty early. And when he was down to about he had maybe 50 people on it. Now it's like close to 600, I think. And I met him then. And the reason why I joined the group, I heard about it. He sent me an invite on Telegram, was because this was during the time of COVID, and I had a sense that things were going to get bad with food. So I wanted to teach people how to garden. That was driving me. I felt like it was my mission. And I was trying it locally in my neighborhood. I would offer to teach people. I'd find them on Nextdoor. And there were a few people I was able to help. In fact, this was a few years ago, and they actually came to a recent workshop I had here. So it did work to some extent, but I wanted to reach more people. And I met Sam over a couple of years ago, I think it was. And we realized we had similar missions. He had the people that I wanted to teach. And somehow very shortly thereafter, I became his workshop coordinator. And I also realized that I needed help here. So it went from there. And he comes here several days a week and works with Jim and I, and I feed him good, and it's mutually beneficial.
That's a great symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, he likes my cooking not only because it tastes good, but I cook non-toxic food. I grow a lot of it. We grow a lot of it, and I'm very fussy about where I buy my meat. Very fussy.
So to help people because I'm trying to go somewhere with this. So how did you, what was the step? Like, was Sam just like driving over, hanging out a lot? And then he's like, well, maybe I'll park my trailer here, my camper.
No, I was doing the workshops, and I had mentioned that, if things get kind of rough, I can't do this myself. I said, I need people. And sort of half serious, half jokingly, because I knew him fairly well at that point. I knew he was, a good guy, very trustworthy. And along with a couple other people, I said, hey, you ever need to have a place where, you can work and grow food and to survive if the food chain ever gets really messed up, this is your place. Come help me. So that it went from there. And yeah, that's progressed. And his, yeah.
Well,
I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's not an easy question to answer. There's so many attributes and so much nuance to it because, you had a situation and you have X, but you need Y. Okay. And if you're doing this stuff, community and relationship building is a big component of it, but that takes time and effort. So, yes, I mean, there's a lot of relationship and trust you have when Sam has his own bedroom in your house and his campers out in the front yard. Okay.
Exactly.
That won't work for everybody. And if it does work, it's a different dynamic. People have different properties and, most people don't take the time to build a relationship with it, and people don't want to do anything if they're not getting something out of it. Well, if they really wanted to grow a garden, okay, they would try to grow it at their house maybe, or say, hey, can I grow it here? I mean, Sam literally helps you run the property.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So
absolutely.
that's amazing.
And then there's Nancy and Vic. They're two medical people. And we recently kind of brought Nancy into the fold. And her goal was to learn skill sets. And that's why I'm teaching her the beekeeping and some of the, natural products that I make. We're working on that. So there's, everybody kind of wins in this situation. And then we have Vic, who is a good friend of mine. She's in Orlando. She teaches nursing, and she will be here, if things get a little crazy. And yeah, I've surrounded myself with really good people.
Yeah.
And it works for us.
Yeah. And, it's a good point because people don't have to move onto your property now.
No.
Learn skills, share skills, contribute, help in the group. And this is one of the dynamics that I learned early on when I jumped into this space back in 2020 with the purpose of meeting people. Okay. All the research I did, most of it was some guy had a property and started collecting people like their action figures. Okay, a doctor or nurse and mechanic and XYZ. But it was like I'm king of the hill, and it turns into a dictatorship, and there's no relationship building. And it's like, hey, you got to make dues, or you got to come here, 2-3 times a month, and we got to do all these trainings. And they're trying to kind of run it like a militia or a military unit.
Yeah.
And that's why they almost always fail, because it's not a network. It's not a community. There's no relationship building.
Yeah.
So,
like, I think that what we do with our group is awesome because we get together, we learn together, we learn about each other, we spend time. And I would feel comfortable with any of you all coming and staying on my property if things went south.
Yeah.
I think that we've spent quite a bit of time together, and I would be very comfortable. Just come.
Yeah.
Everybody, I know that every single one of the people in this group would pull their weight and do whatever needed to be done to have a good, healthy, successful group.
I think it's hard for a lot of people to even visualize, because I think most people will shelter in place in any kind of emergency.
Right.
I think most people really cannot visualize what has to happen in their circumstance, whether it's in their neighborhood or in their city, that they would actually leave their house or apartment and relocate to somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay. And they won't do it in a preemptive manner.
Right.
It's always going to be a reactionary manner.
It'll be after the fact. That's like after Milton. nobody in my neighborhood would have thought that you wouldn't be able to get past my driveway with a car.
Yeah.
And people couldn't get to their homes, and they were going home by boat. And we all had to come together as a community in order to make it all work.
Yeah. And
I don't know
you
if
probably
you're in that sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and we have hurricanes here. So some people, especially after last year, they come to more grips a little bit like that.
Mhm.
But I think too many people, even the ones that are like knee deep in the Facebook groups and, talking about, oh, something's going to happen, this event or that event, even though they're talking all that jazz, they're not building relationships.
Right.
They're not, helping out, knowing somebody that has a homestead and helping out and building friendships and helping their property, or even talking to that person. Hey, if something happens and I got to relocate, what would you mind if I came here? And if so, what could we do prior to make that? You don't want to roll up there with your Coleman tent,
Right.
and a couple sleeping bags, and then, because it's more than just popping a tent. I mean, you got to be able to feed yourself, and you can have all the food storage and everything else you want. But if your house got flooded out, it's all gone, or your house burnt down. So, and if you're not building the relationship, and I talk about relationships all the time in all the episodes, it's because it's community and relationship is the core of preparedness.
And see, now I think we're going even beyond that. Like, we have these groups of people that work together, and now we're kind of networking with these other groups, and it's like, it's just incredible. I cannot tell you. I envision just, a lot of bartering between groups, and because I'm a barterer, I really enjoy doing that.
And you could do that and not have to have relocated to the property. COVID being an example.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
Where general life was moving forward, but we were dealing with shortages. In the future, the economy may get to a point where we have shortages again, or we might have, rationing. We had rationing during COVID. So even to that sense, it's worth it to build relationships with people to get the stuff that you like. Meat was a big thing during COVID, and you saw a giant uptick in boutique butchers and stuff like that. Because they're the ones that had access to the cows to get the meat, and you were probably paying a lot of money. Because I know
there's now a mobile butcher in this area, and there didn't used to be.
Oh, wow.
No.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, all right, here's one more question. We're at what time is it? I think we're at an hour and 23 minutes. So what have you thought about, or how can I put this? What would the parameters be, or how could you envision co-location going forward? I never really posed this to people with their properties and stuff, but you guys are in situations, you're both ladies, okay? And you need extra bodies to help take care of your properties.
You can't do it alone. You cannot do it alone. Can't.
So is it more viable for you, do you think, to have ladies co-locate or men? Give the pros and cons on that for you guys.
To me, it's whoever I connect with, make that connection with, and how I feel about them and how Jim feels people them. It just, we just really took to Sam, Vic the same way, and now Nancy and people from other groups. It just, it almost becomes like family.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just absolutely incredible how it works.
And that's the thing, is you have to build that extended family.
Yeah. Very good.
But I think, women bring a certain thing to a situation, men do. you know, I can't do the same kinds of things that men can do. There's a need for that physical strength, that testosterone.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't have it, you know. But yeah, both, I would say, definitely say you need both.
Yeah. You know, I think you need people that want to be there and want to do it and
Mhm.
don't have to be guided too much.
Yes, self-motivated people
Yeah.
too.
And then
Self-motivated people.
they got to also have, you know, moral character that's in line with how
With
you
your-
live your life.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
you don't need a young guy that's like willing to come and he'll work, but he does meth. You know,
Right. Right.
you know, I've had friends that are general contractors, and one of the hardest things they have when it comes to hiring guys is finding guys that are not drunks, okay, or basically alcoholics or drug addicts
Hmm.
in the trades, electrical,
Wow.
plumbing, and all that. If they had to, you know, drug tests more often than they did, they'd never have enough workers. So that's a challenge. So when you have country living, basically, you're gonna, you know, unless you're somebody that's just a country kid that grew up on the farm or the homestead and just doesn't like city life, you might find a unicorn like that, and he just likes doing the work and doesn't really have a lot of money drains. Like he doesn't have a kid, you know. He's got to pay child support. He doesn't have a drug or drinking habit. I think that's one, you know, the biggest challenges with guys being able to go do it, you know, and not bringing their friends over to the property and hoot and hollering and what have you. I think it scares a lot of people, especially, you know, and women got to be really careful about it,
Absolutely.
you know.
Most.
But I bring these things up because they're quite obvious. But I don't want women, especially women, to not consider it and not seek it out because of the fear. We cannot let fear dictate what we do, but it can help drive, you know, our criteria or our sense about it. Because if you let fear drive it, then nothing's ever going to move forward. And in an emergency, then you're all by yourself, and we don't want that either.
Right.
All right. So as we do the final roundup, we'll go around the horn here and let you comment or bring up anything or pose questions, whatever you want. Cindy, you want to start?
Yeah, just I like the way everything's worked out between the people that we're kind of connecting with right now. I know it was kind of like the prepping hub people and your group, Domenic, and I tell you, it's worked out beautifully. I've been really, really happy about it. Looking forward to seeing a lot of people at the range on Sunday for the meetup there.
Yeah,
And
that should be it.
somebody
Yeah, that's
figure out a
awesome.
restaurant that we can fit all these people at afterwards. I'm trying to think. Aaron, he was talking about one he checked out, but they close early, and but it sounded good. It sounded like there was beef.
Yeah, they closed at 2 or something.
Mm-hmm. So if
Yeah.
anybody else has any ideas,
Because the range is what, out in Dade City? Is it out in Dade City?
correct,
Yeah.
and it's a nice outdoor range.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a ton of mom and pop type restaurants out there,
Mhm.
but being open on a Sunday, you know, to
Mhm.
whatever, you know, other than breakfast and early lunch, you know.
Because it is Dade City.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Devora, what about you? What are your final thoughts?
I think that this has been a really awesome opportunity for all of us to get together and to learn from each other and to make tribe. You know, I cherish the friendships that I've made with everyone in the group, and I value everyone and appreciate everything that I'm learning from everyone, because you can't do it alone, and it it takes a village to raise a me.
Oh man. Well, Sam, since you've been such a good soldier tonight,
Sam, hop in here, Sam.
why don't you hop in and
Go ahead.
I'm busy typing on my phone answering things.
Hey, Sam.
Sam, you got any comments or questions or any announcements or anything?
Yeah, a shameless plug. We've got a big range meetup this Sunday, and I want to say that it might be one of the biggest turnouts we've had in quite a while. So if anybody wants to come, there's still room, but if you have any questions, you get a hold of Domenic or myself, or if you're already in the groups, you've seen the flyers posted, but we'd like to have you there. It's going to be great. It's going to be epic. And it's going to be good eating somewhere if we pick a restaurant.
For those in the audience, this is a Central Florida activity. I know we have some people nationwide that tune into this show, either live or afterwards. But the event is in Dade City, Florida. But you can reach out to me or Sam. And if you're in the local area and you want to participate, it should be a pretty great activity. I think Sam usually tries to have some kind even when we do things at the ranch, even before we were interacting with Sam, we would always have like a potluck if it was at the ranch. And I think Sam, with a lot of his activities, they'd have some kind of meal, whether afterwards or during. So, I think that's important. It helps with the camaraderie and helps with relationship building, and people can bring their favorite dish or try a recipe, and people love it. People love potluck, and try all kinds of stuff, and especially if it's people that are growing fresh food. Who doesn't like fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, and just dishes made with all good ingredients and not full of toxins. So,
well, that's the one thing that binds us all together is food. I mean, regardless of your politics or whatever you think is going on in the world, you got to eat. And we eat good, and we talk about healthy eating and growing food, and that's always been a centerpiece for everything we do. So we're going to eat good.
Yeah. And I want to thank all the people that have been watching live tonight, and guys that have been and gals that have been chatting. When you guys get an opportunity, if you've been in the chats and stuff, let us know where you're from. We like to know how far our reach is getting. Sometimes y'all are using some crazy names. I don't even know who you are. Send me a little side note and say, hey, this is my screen name, but this is who it is. And I go, oh, okay. All right. And all right. Well, I think this first Ladies Night podcast was a great success. I had a great time, great conversations. I hope you guys feel the same way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. And if all goes well, we'll have another one live stream next Thursday, another Ladies Night panel. Hopefully a couple more of the ladies that are in the network. We just have to wait till Thursday to see who it will be. All right. Everyone have a great night. Hurricane Sit Rep. We've had a pretty quiet season, which is good.
Thank you, God.
Yeah, we are in mid-October. We still have another 30 days-ish, for the Caribbean stuff. That's really where the big threats are going to come from, if at all. There is a disturbance out in the Atlantic that is heading straight for the Caribbean. I don't know if it's going to run into Mexico or dissipate or curve up. Still too early to tell. Just want to mention it so people, are paying attention to Mike's weather page. He's based out of Pinellas County. He always has good information. He has all kinds of charts and maps and stuff like that. Tune into Mr. Weatherman. He's based out of the Caribbean. He's no fair porn. He's great. We have Ryan Y'all, and he covers all. and he covers all kinds of different weather stuff happening across the country. And then if you're local to the Tampa Bay area, there's always Dennis Phillips. He's one of our local weathermen. He's very popular, and he's not a fear porn guy either. So I bring all this up because there's too much fear porn on YouTube when it comes to hurricanes, like so much other content. I like to share these guys out every episode so people try them out and, subscribe to them and, just listen to the information and make the appropriate preparations if necessary. All right. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Everyone have a great night. And thanks for watching.
Thanks. Good night.